Peace and love, and welcome to Forever in a Day with C and K. I am K. Usually you hear the C first, and today is a little bit different. We have K first. I'm Kendra, and
Charles, we don't discriminate here.
welcome to Forever in a Day with C and K.
No games played.
No games played at all because although I respect my man,
yes indeed,
I am a very strong woman.
Yes indeed.
And I will forever hold my own whenever I need to.
As you should.
Exactly.
As you should.
So, honey.
The topic of today, let me pick up where you left off.
Yes.
It's to be there for your partner when you need to, and knowing when to allow for them to be themselves.
Exactly. So
what does that look like?
Being there emotionally for your partner without overstepping boundaries and understanding when you need to step up and when you need to step back.
Yeah, that's a big thing for everyone as an individual.
Exactly.
The biggest thing, first and foremost, before you get into the collection of being with someone, is the fact that people have to go so hard in their mind to what they think is surviving. You know, some people don't uphold the belief that things happen as they should, and regardless of how you perceive it, it's going to happen that way anyway.
Yeah.
They have this perception in their mind that this is how I survive, so they come to the table. I would say 99 times out of 100, they come to the table with these mechanisms.
Coping mechanisms.
They're not willing to give up.
Right.
And I think that's a fallacy before we even get into what that looks like for a pairing. If you're coming to the table with preconceived notions of what works for you, wanting someone else to do something for you, you're sorely mistaken that you want to be with someone else. You want someone to be able to adhere to what you are comfortable with, you lose every time.
So it's one thing to know like how you operate and what you need. That's a good thing. To know what you need and know how you need it is a great thing.
Right.
But at the same time, it's good to not just keep yourself in that space.
Right.
Understanding what your partner needs and what you need, and then coming together to discuss, okay, so like us, for example.
We are at the table at this point? Is that what you're saying?
We're at the table at this point.
Okay, let's
because this
follow.
Is Forever in a Day with C and K.
Yes, indeed.
So we are speaking from our experience.
All right, so we're at the table.
Right. So when we are having discussions and when we may not see eye to eye with certain things,
it happens.
Charles is a bit more forceful in his approach, and I am more gentle in my approach in the beginning. But when I feel like I am being when it's too forceful, then I become defensive, and then there's an issue. Am I right?
You are, and then on the back end, with most, I think, masculine energy. Let me respect the process of where we are today in this life. The masculine energy, you come off aggressive to begin with in confrontation because you're comfortable with masculinity. But on the back end, as a result, most of the masculine energy, regardless of how they are perceived by the validation of the world, they become gentle. So if you're gentle at the beginning, you are then theoretically pushed to an aggressive spot. The aggressive spot then becomes gentle because you can't force or push without a push or pull, if that makes sense. You don't have the same thing happening at the same time at all times. Either one person is doing one thing and one person is doing another. So if you're at the table, right, you don't bring the preconceived notions of the individual survival aspect. You have to work through these moments of push and pull, literally push and pull, to be able to come to an understanding. But how do you personally allow for someone like myself, right? I'm speaking third party and I'm a character in the story.
Okay.
How do you allow for someone to come back to chorus or being able to come to an understanding with you after you become aggressive?
I always have to remind myself that what I am currently dealing with is not what I have dealt with in the past. Because it helps me to not give the person that I know that loves me genuinely and understands me and my triggers. I can't give you what I wish I would have given those people that hurt me.
Now, that's something that's important, but as the masculine energy here in this setting, what we have to understand, and I'm speaking through a lot of people.
What about you, though?
Before I get there, I have to understand that what's important is when we're gentle after being aggressive or confronting the issue, we have to understand that it took a lot for you to even get to that point and say that, right? For me, when I'm approached with this energy, because I lack their understanding of trust, for the most part, and that has nothing to do with trauma, let the record reflect, I am therapized in so many different ways, it's not even funny.
That's
the
real.
difference between trauma and triggers is very, very thin, right? Being able to understand that you don't have, in my case, for me, individually, that support, that mindset of knowing what is right and wrong from a collective, having to touch the fire on your own and not have someone tell you about how hot that fire is.
Right.
You come into a situation where you confront the issue just to get understanding, and then you have to gain perspective. So after someone is gentle in their mind to you, we as masculine energy have to see that. We have to want to see that and not always see a problem or see an issue and just having differences. Differences is not confrontation.
No.
Confrontation is the misrepresentation of issues.
I think that a lot of times when people have differences, they feel like it's a confrontation because they don't understand that it's okay for people to be different and have a difference of opinion.
Right. We're supposed to be different.
We're supposed to be different.
Right.
Like, if I approached situations with you in a way in which you approach situations, I don't think we would work. Like,
I don't think two things that are the same make sense scientifically or mathematically. If they're the same, they don't actually equate to anything that is of summation. If that like scientifically and mathematically, you can't.
Although we're both writers, your detail comes from your trauma in some ways. Because you need to know everything and every space and all of that.
Yeah.
And then my nurturing comes from my trauma in some ways too, because I needed to be there for everybody and make sure everybody was okay. But outside of that, the way in which you present things and you're more detailed in things also helps me to not be so just straight to the point.
You're making a clear decision, whereas I'm being nurtured and trust that I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
See, when you actually eat, you understand the trauma and the triggers are seasonings to the feast of what you're actually creating. Because literally, and this is something that most parents have to understand, whether you're a surrogate, whether you're a bonus parent, whether you actually bear these children, whether you like it or not, whatever you are at conception is what you give to that next generation.
Man.
And you have to be serious. For me to be in the position that I have been in, the life that I've lived, to not purposely create seeds means that I have intentions for not only my life, but the legacy I leave behind. So if I'm seasoning a table full of food, which is procreating.
Technically, that meant that you knew how you wanted to have the children. You knew the space in which you wanted to create these children. And you were not going to be frivolous in your life to make children outside of the space and the opportunities. Not
intentionally. So let's go back to before our individual nuances before we come to that table. Metaphysically, let's keep the listener on par.
Right.
Individually, you have to come prepared.
We are talking about understanding the emotional space of your partner, when to give more and when to let them deal with stuff. So we have kind of delved into a few other topics, but the main thing is when to focus on when your partner needs a little bit more of your attention, and when you need to let them deal with certain things within themselves.
And now I'm bringing that to the feast.
Right.
We're feasting on the individualities that we have.
Right.
And those things together create a feast of things that you can eat on and create more of if it's created right.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that you support somebody is no different than the way that anybody prepares a meal. No one prepares their meals the same.
Right.
Everyone needs to eat, and it's essential according to what we believe that life is.
Yeah.
If that is the truth, then that's everything else with relational interactions.
And being okay with bending to that.
You got to. You can't put too much pepper on something.
Because if you want to live in a space with someone else, you have to be okay with not doing things that is comfortable to you all the time.
Yes. Of course, we all like our favorite dish.
Right.
But can we as a collective, listeners and us included, because now you're in a conversation, think of that first thing that you tried that you may not have thought of appreciating, but you enjoyed it. After the fact, and you've never known, like
macaroni and cheese.
Pizza from scratch for me. Shout out to my great aunt my aunt BJ.
Shout out to my aunt and my grandma, because they make the best macaroni and cheese out of my life. And that's what made me love macaroni and cheese.
And you know what you do with that? That's legacy. You bring that to the next table that you're at. And you create more from that. Macaroni and cheese could be an individual dish, but you also can add that. And I make the best
macaroni and cheese ever in life. Even though I am a plant-based, raw individual, I still make the best macaroni and cheese. I don't have to taste it, and I know it's good. We'll get to that in another segment.
Indeed. But essentially, the point of this conversation, quickly, as we begin to wrap up, is that the collection of individual progression is not actually what you bring to the table.
Yeah.
You bring to the table things that can create a feast. So it's the positive things.
Right.
For the most part. And with that, you still got to see how that applies to the person that you love. And then from that, then you create a feast, which is legacy, that you can not only feed yourself, not only feed the generation after you, but everybody.
Yeah. Because
it's integrity. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I feel like at the end of the day, my bad. Sometimes my mind is quicker than my mouth.
It's all right. It's all good.
But at the end of the day, I feel like when you have an understanding of your partner and you understand their needs when it comes to communication and dealing with certain situations, etc., then you have more of an understanding. It's not like you're letting go of your morals and what you think you need to do and all of that stuff like that, but it becomes more of a understanding and an acceptance of knowing when, where, how, and what to do when you are dealing with someone else, pretty much, and how to approach them when they may be not in their best spaces, and when to engage and when to give them their space.
So let's conclude the dinner. We have come to the table.
And I know this conversation was kind of like, we hit on so many different points, but the main point is just understanding your partner's emotional palette, and when you know to engage and give them support, and when to allow them to regulate within themselves. Because we definitely hit on so many different things in this conversation, but the main thing was just making sure we understand our partner's emotional palette and when to engage and when to allow them to self-regulate.
So the self-regulation part, the last part of the conversation, right? I feel like we have, for heightened individuals, it's easy to follow.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So I've painted this picture of a dinner, a date, if you will. You're at the table, and now how do you give that partner space, right? You think about it like such. You're at the table, you create this feast, you cook it, you prepare it, you eat it, but then at some point you have to leave. You can't have too much of anything.
Right.
You can't have too much dessert. No one wants to eat too much vegetables, whatever the case may be. You can apply that to your individuality.
Unless you're plant-based.
Not even. It's just not. See, we're giving them game now. With the plant-based diet, you can also go overboard on what you consume there. So regardless of what you give to yourself, there are portions that you have.
Compartmentalized.
Indeed. So you're not going to have too much of anything while you interact.
Yeah.
The feast and the giving each other space is at the conclusion of what you feel like you can consume.
And you have to be okay with that.
There we go.
You have to be okay with giving each other space. Because a lot of times when we're in relationships, we want to just be there for this person, and we want to make sure that this person is okay, and we're not the one that is triggering you, and all of those things, right?
Right.
But it's okay to give your partner space, especially if you want a healthy relationship. Space is important, especially for partners who are like me, who actually need that space. I operate better when I have space to think and process. I'm a processor. I am a person who is very intuitive based, and so I need that time to process and to really think about what I need, how I need to present it, and all of that. Whereas Charles is more emotionally based. So how he feels, he wants to just get it out immediately. And sometimes that can conflict, but we don't allow it to conflict so much where we are on opposing teams. If that makes any sense.
I mean, you have to-go trays for a reason. You have the ability to compartmentalize things, put them up, save them for later.
Right.
If it's dessert or delicate type of situation, you put it in the freezer.
And Charles had to learn how to be okay with that, because he's the type that wants to just like, let's deal with it right now, right? But sometimes in relationships and conversations and things like that, you can't. If you really want to get to the point and resolve the situation, sometimes you cannot do it immediately, because you want everybody to be on the same accord. And although I know that's a struggle for my husband in certain things, because he really wants to get it done, he has been really good with understanding that I need a day or two to really process, because I need to instinctually feel what is happening and what's going on and how I need to respond, and then I can approach it. Whereas he just feels it, and then he just like boom, 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 boom. This is what I want. This is how I want it to be, and blah 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 blah.
Right.
But I feel like as we continue to grow with each other, we are understanding the best ways for us to move forward in moments where we're not on the same page. Am I right or am I wrong?
No, I mean, it's a to-go plate for a reason. Like I said, you put the delicates in one. You don't put the delicates with the main course or the appetizer. If you eat, in a large part of the relationship or any relationship you have is actually going out and dating. And I've been blessed to start dating with my wife. I've been on a few dates prior to, but I've really had to invest in that when it comes to my wife, if you will. So in the event that there is an issue, and I'm learning as I'm speaking, it's like, well, you just save it for later. And you have to accept
it's
that
okay
a lot
with
of
that.
masculine energy
as
has
long
to accept
as
that.
I feel like it's okay to save it for later, as long as you're not sweeping it under the rug. And there's a difference between sweeping it under the rug and just and not communicating and talking about it anymore, versus today is not the right day to communicate this, but I want to communicate this in a healthy way so that we both have an understanding. So maybe we will not talk about this today, but maybe tomorrow, where we're both clearer in our heads, we can communicate what we need, what we want, and how we want it. And then we can come to an understanding.
Essentially, it's easier said than done, but I want people to think about this. You have never gone to Ruth Chris Cheesecake Factory. You haven't gone to Fogo de Chao, because I'm going to keep it a bean with you. I understand. And you've never let that food sit out. You have never let it spoil.
Right.
What this food metaphor is saying, the dinner, the outing, the relational metaphor is saying is that if you make a delicate choice to invest in someone, their time, their space, their mind, and then you allow for it to go unresolved, that is similar to allowing things to spoil you that you really already invested in. It's like, what's the point?
And my cereal eaters, we already know when with the milk and all of that shit like that, we cannot allow it to spoil because we want to be able to enjoy it.
Therefore, in the event that you are allowing these things to spoil you, you're not invested.
Right.
So don't make it seem like one thing when it's not, when you probably trying to get something else out of it that ain't got nothing to do with dating.
Exactly.
I'm going to leave it at that.
So the main thing is, when you are in a relationship, in marriage, whatever the case may be, although you may operate in a way that may be different from your spouse, you have to always consider their differences. And it's okay to be different, but you have to meet in the middle.
That's why you date. That's why you go out. You meet. You blind date. All of these things that conceptualize what you truly want is exactly that. You're trying to meet somebody halfway. So don't misunderstand that.
So yeah. So this conversation is all about just not being stuck in your way when it comes to dealing with certain things with your spouse. And for those of you that may be single listening to this, it's the same thing. You have to be okay with bending. And compromise doesn't mean you lose.
Right.
Because sometimes in relationships and from people that talk about compromising, somebody has to lose. It's not that. If you really care about the person and you are really and truly trying to work through things and understand how this person operates and what they need and what you need, and you guys are able to meet in the middle, that is what compromise is. Nobody is losing in a compromise. So always remember that. If you are losing in a compromise, then that is not a compromise. It is you neglecting yourself.
Right. It's okay to be single and have standards. I think what most single individuals fail to realize is that what creates commonality is interest. Mm-hmm. You're not dealing with a man or you're not dealing with a woman because they have money. You don't even know how they get that money. Tangibly connect to the interests that allow for those things to figure itself out.
Right.
If you're going out there blind dating with things that don't mesh with you, you're not creating the same meals. So it makes no sense.
Right. So basically, just understanding how you operate versus your partner and even the person that you're dating before you decide to actually be partners.
Right.
And being okay with the differences and learning how to mesh those differences without feeling like you're losing anything. That is the conversation. Again, I know that we were very detailed in our conversation, but the main thing is understanding differences and uniting those differences and being okay with meshing them and not feeling like you're losing anything. Because if you feel like you're losing something, then that means that you are not truly operating in a healthy space in a relationship. Am I right or am I wrong?
Man, you too right. I ain't gonna hold you.
All right, so
that's it. I ain't got nothing
thank
else.
you for listening to this episode. Thank you so much. I feel like we just put our hearts out to you guys. That's why it was so many different details of so many different things.
We were not supposed to talk this long.
We weren't supposed to talk this long, but I felt like we were just really having a conversation with you guys and you're listening. So
before we go,
yes,
I must say, Forever and a Day with C&K is absolutely wonderful. But if you're not listening to Awakening with Kendra, if you have not heard, and this is just not me kind of like bigging up my partner, if you will. But if you enjoy two people talking like that, imagine one person intimately connecting with you.
I mean, you have to check out Unpopular Opinion too.
Oh, look, she only doing that because it's a promo.
It's not.
Listen.
This is who
Awakening
I am.
with Kendra is just like this from a feminine perspective that commands masculine energy.
But I feel like also what you do with Unpopular Opinion for men, they definitely should listen to that. And I'm not saying that because you're my husband, because I don't really like people, and I'm just gonna put that out there. Only because I'm very empathetic, and I see people for who they are, and what they are, and all of those things. So I see. That is my gift. I see. So I have a very big understanding of people. You know what? I need to change that. It's not that I don't like people. I see people
for who they really are, and it gives you discernment.
I love people.
Yeah.
Love them to the depths of me. I love them.
Yeah.
But because I have the gift to see, I understand when there's bullshit and when there's not. Definitely check out the Unpopular Opinion for a man's observation of life and healing and everything like that. Like, the thing is, we're arguing or going back and forth about supporting each other. And we don't want to continue to go deep down in that. That's how deep our love goes for each other. We actually really support each other. So please make sure you check out Charles's Unpopular Opinion, where he goes deeper into the people, the men.
Yeah.
And this conversation with men. And then you check out Forever Today, where we both communicate about the different sides of masculine versus feminine. And then you check out Awakening with Kendra, where I connect with women, I guess, but all walks of life. But I guess it's more feminine based. Mm-hmm. So definitely check out all of those platforms. But the main thing that I want to make sure that we connect with is just Forever and a Day with C&K while we're on this platform. Like, if you guys want to see us outside of what we do with each other, then everything is on our main page where you can see each of us. But right now, the main thing is us and how we are able to delegate and communicate and be with each other but with our differences. So there we go. As we should.
I'll leave it at that. You all be well. We love you all for sure.
Yes.
We gave you more than we should.
30 minutes.
15 minutes more than we should. But if you really go back, take a pen and pencil to a paper, if you will, and break down what we're saying, you've already known this.
Right.
So it's time to actually use it.
And that's all you get, because that's enough. It's more than enough from us right now. So sending you all love and hoping that wherever you are in your journey of whether you're single or in a couple, that you are listening to yourself first, and then you are honoring self while you are in relationship with someone else.
Yeah.
And that is Forever and a Day with
C&K.
C&K. I didn't want to say C because I'm not C, I'm K. But you know.
K, C, C, and K.
I mean, whatever. We're united. Reunited. And it feels so good.
Peace.
Peace.